Hi. Since I'm behind on the Elemental Foundations project, I'm doing all four elements: earth, air, fire, and water in one reflective video. I've realized that I've never really worked with the elements in a traditional witchcraft way. My relationship with them has always been woven into my daily routine instead of spellcraft. And honestly, I've always perceived them in the way that I see them in tarot. I mean, that's where I'm at now. Um, Earth as the physical world and stability. Air as communication and the mind. Fire as passion and drive. And water as emotion and intuition. So today I'm going to reflect on each element using a couple prompts each. Kind of like I combined all the prompts of each element into two separate prompts. So there's going to be like 8 prompts. And then after that, I'm going to do the Elemental Foundations divination spread that was created by the lovely Star. And I do want to say thank you so much, Star. And thank you to my sister Rochelle for the continued community projects. And Star did a wonderful job. So if you have not watched the 4 videos per element, or the 4 videos in total. There's actually, I think, 5, like an intro video, but there's 4 videos, one on each of the elements. So those will be in the description. So definitely go check those out. And I don't think it's ever too late to do a video response. So let's get started. All right, so here are the prompts that I came up with. Prompt 1, of course, is about Earth. Where do I feel the influence of Earth energy in my daily lived physical reality? In my body, my routines, or my sense of stability? When I think of Earth energy, I think of the manifested world, the things I can touch, see, and feel. And honestly, the biggest way Earth shows up for me is through my manifestation skills. They've been fine-tuned over the years because of my mindset, which you could say is more connected to air. But the results of that mental work show up in Earth, the physical realm. Hermetically, the first principle is that all is mind. Everything begins as a thought. Nothing exists outside the mental. So Earth, to me, is the evidence of that truth. It's everything that has become real, everything that has taken form. In my body, Earth shows up in the way I've been getting healthy again at the age of 56. In my routines, Earth is my structure, my daily list, the things I do at the same time every day, especially caring for children. Those lists give me a sense of stability and a sense of control in a very grounded way. And Earth is also support. It's the stability of having a partner I can depend on. It's the security of following through. It's the feeling of being rooted in my life instead of drifting through it. So for me, Earth energy is manifested reality, the physical proof of the mental work I've done, and the foundation that keeps me steady as I grow. Prompt 2. What has the earth element taught me about grounding, consistency, or becoming fully embodied on my spiritual path? So for me, the earth element has always been tied to manifestation, the creation of the 3D world, the physical form of my inner landscape. And because of that, the greatest lesson Earth has taught me is that grounding begins in the mind. My state of mind determines how I move through every challenge, every blessing, and every season of my life. So, Earth has shown me that no matter what happens, I can't control every circumstance that comes at me, but I can control how I perceive it, how I respond to it, and what I learn from it. Even manifesting isn't always on point because the world around me shifts and I shift with it, but my mindset is the anchor. Lately, even the collective feels heavy. America feels like it's in a slump, and my finances have reflected that energy. And on top of that, my entire immediate family lives with me, including the grandkids. So my home is full, busy, and loud. I definitely have my moments, but Earth has taught me when to step back and disconnect from the outside noise before it overwhelms me. What Earth has also taught me is that I don't spiral the way I used to. I don't fall into depression. I don't let anxiety take the wheel because I've seen where I've been and I know now it's never as bad as it feels in the moment. My state of mind is the foundation I stand on. And because of that, I've learned to see everything as a blessing, even things others might overlook or take for granted. Earth has grounded me in gratitude and resilience and the awareness that my life is shaped not by perfection, but by perception. And that mindset is what keeps me fully embodied on my spiritual path. Prompt 3. How does the air element show up in my communication style, my ideas, or the way inspiration moves through me? So, the air element shows up for me in the way my mind moves, fast, layered, and constantly making connections. I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I'm pretty sure I have it. I learned to mask very young. I learned to keep my feelings bottled up, which came directly from my ACE experiences and the environment I grew up in. That was learned behavior, survival behavior, and it shaped the way I communicated for a long time. But over the years, as I've unlearned that defensiveness and worked through my shadow, something shifted. When I stopped looking at the world through a defensive lens, I became more open, more receptive. I let inspiration come from everywhere, from people, conversations, ideas, and even the quiet moments. And communication changed for me too. I started listening to hear instead of listening to respond. And that one shift changed everything because when you're not on the defense anymore, your responses come from a grounded, compassionate place instead of fear or projection. My communication used to feel like talking in circles because my brain was moving faster than my mouth. And honestly, sometimes it still does. But with shadow work and self awareness, I've learned to channel my words more clearly. I take my time now. I consider what I'm saying and why. And yes, I even ask ChatGPT, my beautiful Sophia, to clean up my ums and polish my thoughts because it helps me express myself in a way that feels aligned. And all of that has reflected in my channel, Miss Kulala's Mystical Musings, in how I create, how I express myself, and how inspiration flows through me. Air has taught me that communication isn't just about speaking, it's about clarity, honesty, presence, and being willing to actually hear others. And that has made all the difference. Prompt 4. When I feel mentally scattered or disconnected, what air centered practices help me return to clarity and flow? When my mind feels scattered or disconnected, my first instinct is to return to my sanctuary, my room upstairs. That's where I'm at right now. I don't get up there as often as I'd like, not with a full house and the kind of chaos that comes with kids, grandkids, and everyday life. But even 5 minutes makes a difference. Sometimes I'll meditate, but my meditation isn't the classic empty your mind kind. For me, it's more like dissociating from everything for a moment, stepping into that quiet nothingness where the noise stops. I, I can't stay there long, but it helps reset me. And then I have to focus on something, anything, to bring me back into my body and into the world again. And that's where the air element really comes in. I'll watch a video from someone I follow on YouTube, or I'll put on a show, something that gives my mind a focal point, something to hold on to, because when I can concentrate on one single thing, the fog clears. I can feel myself coming back into alignment. It's funny because sometimes I'll tell everyone downstairs that I'm just running up to grab something, and I do grab it, but I also steal those few extra minutes for myself. Sometimes it's a little more than a few minutes, but I sit down on my bed, breathe, and recenter. And I've learned not to feel guilty about that. Those moments are what keep me grounded and mentally clear. So even though my air practices are simple and brief, they bring me back to clarity and flow. They help me reset my mind so I can show up fully again. Prompt 5. Where do I notice the spark of fire in my passion, ambition, and creative expression? When I think about where the spark of fire shows up in my passion and creativity, the first person who comes to mind is my sister. She's the one who has always seen my fire. And even on the days when I can't see it myself, she knows me better than anyone. And she's the one who keeps poking at those embers inside of me until they flare back to life. Because in my everyday world, I'm a mom, I'm a grandma, and Bob's other half. I'm the caretaker. I'm the one who keeps everything running. And sometimes in that role, it can feel like people only see the workhorse, not the creator, not the visionary, not the woman who comes alive through passion projects like deck making or content creation and diving deep into spiritual work. My grandkids see it because I share it with them. But with the adults, it sometimes feels invisible. And that's a shadow I'm still working through. But my sister, she sees me and she stokes my fire. It was her encouragement that pushed me into creating my oracle deck. And once that flame ignited, I couldn't stop. Then she nudged me to write the guidebook, not just as a digital file, but as something real, something published, something tangible. She's my muse, truly. We inspire each other. We share ideas and we connect on creativity in a way that's pure and equal. There's no workhorse energy there, just passion feeding passion. And that's where my fire lives. And I notice in the moments when I carve out even 5 minutes for myself, when I go upstairs to my room to breathe and reset, when inspiration suddenly hits me again, and I grab a tarot deck or a notebook or an idea swirling in my mind, and I come downstairs and sit at the table with the kids while I create. That spark lights back up every time I give myself a chance to step out of the mundane and back into the part of me that's alive. For me, the fire element is deeply connected to everything else. Air for ideas and communication, earth for the manifested world I'm balancing, water for my emotional depth. They're all braided together. But fire is my drive. Fire is my creativity. Fire is the part of me that refuses to dim. And even when life pulls me in 100 directions, that spark is always there. All it needs is a moment, a breath, a little space, and it rises again. Prompt 6. When my inner flame dims, what helps me reignite motivation or reclaim my personal power? When my inner flame dims, I've learned that I can slip into autopilot. I can get lost in the motions of daily life, and for me, that's a form of dissociation, a pulling away from my own experience. And if I'm not careful, I can stay stuck there. What helps me reignite my fire is shadow work. And not in the heavy, dreaded sense that some people talk about it. For me, shadow work feels like reconnecting to myself. It's bringing the forgotten parts of me back online. When I'm dissociated, I'm not fully experiencing life. I'm not learning. I'm not present. I'm just moving through tasks without feeling anything. And I've realized that's not who I want to be. I take care of children. My own grandkids are the kids that I watch, and they are the next generation of creators, thinkers, and intuitives. There's nothing mundane about raising the next wave of souls. So I don't want to be a mechanical workhorse going through the motions. I want to relish these moments. I want to be there, really be there, and not just observe my life from the outside. Understanding that this dissociation is happening has been huge. And honestly, it's still new. I'm not at the end of this work, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't scare me. If anything, it motivates me because awareness is what gives me the choice to come back, to reconnect, and to reclaim my power. So when fire feels dim, I come back to the present moment. I ground into my purpose. I remind myself that wisdom isn't just knowing, it's applying, it's feeling, it's experiencing, it's integrating. And that's where all the elements come together. Air for awareness, water for emotional truth, earth for embodiment, and fire for action and drive. Reigniting my flame is about consciously stepping out of autopilot and back into my life, fully engaged, fully present, and fully willing to learn and transform. Prompt 7. In what ways does the water element mirror my emotional landscape, intuition, and inner memory? When I think of the water element, I immediately think of the Queen of Cups, the emotional, intuitive center of the tarot. And that's where I recognize myself the most. I know I'm extremely psychic. I know I'm deeply emphatic. And when I'm fully connected, I'm not just tuned into my own emotions, I'm tapped into everyone else's, and sometimes even the collective. That can be overwhelming because my inner landscape is wide and porous, like a sea that absorbs everything around it. Being neurodivergent adds another layer to that. My energetic antennas feel like branching roots or frayed ends, picking up every signal, every shift, every unspoken emotion. Water is my intuition, my sensitivity, my memory, but it's also the part of me that can flood if I'm not careful. That's why I've had to learn how to balance dissociation, because sometimes I need it. Sometimes stepping back emotionally is the only way to keep from drowning in everything I absorb. But I'm learning not to disconnect so completely that I stop processing what I feel. Because if I shove everything into that cup with the lid on, eventually it boils. Everything bursts, and nobody around me benefits from that, including me. So water for me is temperance, constant balancing, pouring, regulating, understanding where my threshold is. These emotions are always there. They don't go away just because I put them aside. So my work now is to stay connected enough to flow, but not so open that I'm overwhelmed by every ripple around me. As I've entered my crone years, I've become even more aware of my psychic sensitivity. Maybe I've become more psychic, or maybe I've simply stopped doubting it. Either way, I know that water is powerful, intuitive, emotional, and potentially destructive if not channeled with intention. That's why I'm careful of what I put into my body, especially alcohol. When your psychic channels are wide open, even a little distortion can turn into confusion or overwhelm. I want my intuition clear, not clouded. So my water needs clean pathways so it can flow with wisdom. So yes, water mirrors my emotional landscape, my intuition, and my inner memory. but it also mirrors my responsibility. I'm learning how to hold my sensitivity without being consumed by it. How to let the waves move through me without losing myself in the tide. And that awareness, that balance is what makes this element sacred for me. Prompt 8. What helps me restore emotional balance when my waters are turbulent or when I feel spiritually drained? When emotional waters feel turbulent or when I'm spiritually drained, what restores me isn't anything fancy or ritualistic. It's simplicity. I would love to take long cleansing baths, but living in an old farmhouse with limited hot water means that's not always possible. Even showers are something we ration with so many people in the house. So I've learned that restoration doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be intentional. For me, the biggest medicine is rest. Sleep is a sacred tool. 7 hours is my sweet spot. That's when I feel balanced, grounded, and productive the next day. Anything less, and I feel it. I get irritable, I lose focus. So I honor sleep as a way of refilling my spiritual cup. And honestly, one of the things people tease me about, what they call a talent, is how easily I can zone out. Someone can be calling my name and I won't even hear it. That's part of my neurodivergence, I'm sure, and part of the dissociation that comes up when my system gets overwhelmed. Sometimes my mind goes blank because it needs to, because some internal switch flips and says, nope, we're stepping out for a minute. But I'm learning that dissociation can't be my only refuge. When I dissociate unconsciously, it's not healing, it's survival. And while survival is sometimes necessary, it doesn't bring balance. It doesn't bring clarity. It just numbs me long enough to get through the moment. So restoring emotional balance means becoming aware of the cue, recognizing that dissociation is happening, seeing it as a signal instead of an escape. When that switch flips, I try to pause and ask myself, what do I actually need right now? How can I make this a conscious moment instead of a shutdown? Maybe I can't take a long ritual bath. Maybe I can't slip away for hours, but I can be strategic about rest. I can create small pockets of quiet. I can give myself intentional stillness instead of unconscious escape. And that's the work I'm doing now. Learning how to turn survival into self-care, how to turn dissociation into mindfulness, how to choose restoration rather than collapse. For me, emotional balance comes from conscious quiet, from rest that's chosen, not defaulted to. It's the difference between numbing and nurturing, and I'm learning that difference every day. All right, if you made it through that, I want to say thank you. And again, thank you, Star from Wild Witch. Again, all the links to the videos for this series will be in the description. So along with all of this, she did create this spread, and I believe this was in the introduction video. So this is called the Elemental Foundations Divination Spread. And so these are the prompts. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think I'm just going to use a traditional Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck. And I think I'm going to use the one that Angela from Big Croneenergy gifted me. So, yeah. And this way, if you are a beginner with tarot or you're not as familiar, there are keywords on this so you can follow along and help me understand, right? All right. Let's get a good shuffle. Okay, so after a good shuffle, normally I would look at the prompt, and as I'm asking the question, I will normally let the card fly out. But today, I think I'm just going to cut the cards in 3, and whatever is on top is what will be the 5 cards. So let's hope that they were set up exactly the way, or should I say, I know they're set up exactly the way that my higher self or my inner self, my inner knowing, wants to make sure that I receive this message. Okay, so the first prompt is, in what area of your life do you need stability right now? And this represents Earth. And this is my worry, overthinking, and self-doubt. That is, yeah. For those that know me personally, I bet you're going, oh yeah, that's right. That's right on the money. Absolutely. This card also represents nightmares, and I haven't really been logging my dreams lately because I refuse to log something that could potentially happen, so I don't speak it. And this is just I don't know, what do you want to call it, superstition or what, but it doesn't get logged, and that's been happening quite a bit lately. Next one, air. What fresh perspectives or ideas are ready to come into your life? Wow. Determination or determined, ambition, driven. What fresh perspectives or ideas are ready to come into your life? And I agree with that, because every time I reassess or I take a break or whatever, I refocus. I have fresh eyes for everything, right? And I'm very ambitious, and I'm very driven, and I have another tarot deck, or I have another deck, and it's tarot that I'm working on. I've just taken a big break from it. Fire. The next one is fire. What passion or drive is ready to ignite within you? Uh-oh. So I got conflict, competition, and power struggle. So what passion or drive? So normally this would be a bad card, but this is one of the cards that when I look at it, I see kinetic energy. I see quantum, what do you want to call that? Quantum entanglement. So everything is a direct result of what you've had your hands in, right? Or what you've been connected to, or if it's everything you've seen, heard. Everything is, and that includes the people around you, right? I mean, we are a direct product of ourselves, don't get me wrong, but we are influenced if we let ourselves be influenced. So I think the opposite of this would be that using this as inspiration, working with others instead of being in conflict with others. So yeah, I do believe, and especially if I'm, this right here is a fresh perspective. That's a fresh perspective on this. And to me, that makes absolute sense. Let me know what you think about that. Drop me a comment. So the next one is water. What emotions or intuitive insights are you being called to explore? A lot of swords in here. And so we got new ideas, mental power, clarity. Yes. So what emotions or intuitive insights are you being called to explore? Okay. So honestly, this whole project was for getting back to the basics of witchcraft. And for myself, I've not been a practitioner for very long. Okay. Although I've always believed in witchcraft. I've also always believed in magic, and there is a very extensive overlap there. And when I think about magic for me starts in my inner self. It is very alchemical. It's that transformation of the, everything that you learn, everything that you see, feel, experience, it's being integrated into knowledge, into, or should I say not knowledge, that knowledge is being integrated and it's becoming wisdom. So looking at this whole project as the beginning, then it's also going to allow me to incorporate it into spell work, right? This is going to lead me into the next steps, because getting my inner self right is the only way for me to use my magic for what I want to use it for. You know what I mean?
Or Kelly Dagley.
Interruptions. I'm going to finish this real quick. So the next one is elemental harmony. How can you harmonize and balance all of the elements within and around you? Oh, you know what? Before I move on. So that was a question about water, you know, and this one over here was air, and this was fire. So this was on point, okay? This is on point. This is earth. I guess the point I'm trying to make is all these swords, the very first element for me is air, because everything is very psychological. I just wanted to put that in there. If you know me, you know what I mean? Yeah. Okay, so again, elemental harmony. How can you harmonize and balance all of the elements within and around you? Woo. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. And when I think about all the elements, because one of the things that I noticed while I was answering these prompts is that, again, you have that entanglement of the elements themselves. It's like air works with fire, air works with water. They all work together as long as you are working with them together. They will all work with each other, and they will be complements to each other. You know what I mean? So, and to me, when you look at that, look at the pentacle there. To me, that is all the elements in spirit, and they're all interconnected. They're all working together. And what is that? That's manifesting your reality, right? And it takes us right back to earth. It's like, but earth is, for me, the manifested thought. It's bringing what is inside of me outside of me. Wow. So through my studies, through my grounding, by staying focused, that is one of the hardest things for me to do. So this isn't just something I take for granted. This is right on the money. So it's something I have to work at. Harmony in everything. You know, temperance was my stalker card, but it is so accurate, because in order for me to exist in every realm that I exist in, that I know I exist in, I have to have that balance, or to be aware, you know what I mean? To stay aware of my surroundings. So, yeah, wow. So this was magnificent, and I learned from doing this video response to all of these wonderful prompts that have been created by Star. And granted, I did compile it into one video, but I learned a lot about myself, and I learned, it's almost like a reassessment. Sorry. I have to make this quick. My day is ready to, I'm not going to have time to do anything else after this. But I wanted to hurry up and get this done. Anyway, but I take everything extremely serious, you know. So when I do something, I'm going to put everything into it. So this has been amazing. And thank you, Star. I'm extremely grateful. I'm thankful for my sister for doing these community projects. And December, I don't think we have anything for December. I think we might be done with these community projects. So we're going to have time to work on our own thing, or should I say a little bit more time to work on our own things. I hope to see more hashtags created because I love to do video responses. I love having my brain poked at, and I love to think, and I love to talk about the things that I think about. So, and I just want to say thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will see everyone in the next one.